This is a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in the end of 1991, like we are now. And of course, it's talking about this topic of this week's Torah portion, which is Moshiach. And the Rebbe said that we're ready for Moshiach. Moshiach is supposed to be any second now, and we just have to open up our eyes. We have the parade is ready for Moshiach. We've even shined up all the buttons. Our whole service is just Mashiach, thinking about Mashiach, talking about Mashiach, doing about Mashiach, everything I can about Mashiach. You don't have to talk about it all the time, say the word Mashiach. It should be on our mind because that's the whole essence of what Judaism is, to make this world holy, happy, meaningful. Parshat Vayishlach. One of the special topics of Yom Shabbat Kodesh of this Shabbat, Itchalato, the beginning of it, Erev Shabbat, Friday, Shabo Nasid is made Achila, the Yom Shabbat. It says that you're supposed to prepare the food of Shabbat, of course, before Shabbat, and you're supposed to taste it. You're supposed to taste the food of Shabbat before Shabbat comes in. There's a custom to that. I have to admit that I do not do this custom. Not because I don't care, because I'm simply not hungry, and I'm usually running around before Shabbat comes in. But nevertheless, you do it. You do it for me. You're supposed to. Anyone you see doing it, tasting the food of Shabbat before Shabbat, is doing a good thing. Like the rabbis say, Misha Tarach B'Erev Shabbat, a person that makes a big effort before Shabbat, he is able to eat on Shabbat. And this last 2,000 years since the temple has been destroyed is Erev Shabbat. We have been working for Shabbat, which is Mashiach. What is going to be this Erev Shabbat is the 15th day of Kislev. I think that this year it also comes out that way. This year it comes out the same as the Rebbe spoke back then. Let me have a look over here. Just one moment. I'm thinking it does, yes. Here we go. Last Shabbat was two. Why is this? Here we go. There it is. But is this right? 1 second. Yes, Tet Zion, huh? No.
Zion is Shabbos, yeah.
That's Tet Zion. A Shabbat. So that's right. The same thing as this is. The 15th is Friday. It's Friday. And the 15th day is the day before Shabbat. And the 15th day is Kaima Siora Bishlemuta, is the full moon. You know, the Jewish months go according to the moon. So the middle 15th day of every Jewish month is the 15th day of the month. That's the day that the moon is full, big moon. And the end of the month is when there's no moon. And the beginning of the month, the first day is when there's a little sliver of the moon. So the 15th day of every Jewish month is when the moon, Kaima Siora Bishlemuta, that the moon exists in complete, it's a full moon. Hashlemut Chodesh Kislev, that is the wholesomeness, the fullness of the month of Kislev. Siyumo Hagomar, the Motzi Shabbat, Hanimshach Ad Yom Shlishi B'Shavua, which will be next week, not this week, but not this coming week. Next week will be Yud Tet Kislev, which is that the holiday of the redemption of the first Rebbe of Chabad. It's called the holiday of holidays. Like Yom Kippur is called the Shabbat of Shabbats. As this is called the holiday of holidays. Rosh Hashanah, this is the beginning, the New Year's Day of Chassidut. Okay, so what do we have? This coming Friday will be the 15th day of the month. The moon is full. And that sets the stage for the 19th day of the month, which that's going to be Tuesday of next week. Yud Tet Kislev. This is just exactly how it was on that Yud Tet Kislev. What is it? 200 years ago, the Palma Rishon in Tuf Kuf Nun Tet. We are now in Tuf Shin Pei Vav. So it's almost 220 years ago. Kedivra Rabbeinu was talking like the words of the first Rebbe of Chabad in his known letter, Shagulato Hayata B'Yom Yud Tet Kislev, that the day he became freed from prison was on the 15th day of Kislev. And I'll explain what happened exactly. A 3-minute explanation. That was the third day of the week, Shehuchma Bo Kitov, on the third day when God created the world. So on the second day, he didn't say it was good. On the third day, he said it was good twice. Shekarati, when I was reading in the book of Psalms, in the sentence, Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, that's what Psalm number 55, that the book of Tehillim is divided, the book of Psalms is divided into 7 equal parts, 7 parts. It's divided into 31 parts, and it's divided into 5 parts. It's divided into 7 parts. So on the 7th, this is relevant to Tuesday, Yom Shlishi. So we read this psalm saying, my soul was redeemed in peace. So therefore, the Shabbat was on the 16th day of the month, and Erev Shabbat was on the 15th day of the month, like we say this year. Okay, since that's the way it was back then when the Rebbe got freed. Okay, let's just a short summary. I know you've heard the story before, but if you didn't, it's worthwhile to hear. So the story goes like this. The first Rebbe of Chabad was the pupil of the Baal Shem Tov. More properly, more exactly, was the pupil of the Baal Shem Tov's pupil, the Maggid of Mezrich. But he was the one, the first Rebbe of Chabad, he was the one that explained the ideas of Chassidut in a way which could be understood by everybody. Because we have to remember that the world was created from the Torah. This is not just a Jewish idea, this is the fact. No other religion or whatever it is, the group or race, whatever they're called, even makes such a claim like this, that they have their books and they have this. The world was created from the Torah, and the world is being created right now from the Torah. The Torah is not just a book given to Moses. It was also a book given to Moses, of course, but it is the will and the wisdom of the creator of the universe. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob tapped into it before Moses was ever born. And it says that even Adam, the first man, also tapped into it. The Torah, so he knew what was wrong and he knew what was right. The Torah. So the Torah is the blueprint of all creation. The Torah. But the Torah, taken at face value, is just another book. And its instructions are just other instructions, just like, laws of, driving in England or whatever, you drive on the lights. They're just laws, laws, man-made laws, or man-inspired man-made laws, right? Inspired people. But no, we're saying, no, it didn't come from man. It came from God himself, the creator of the universe. He wrote this book. But on the surface of it, it doesn't look like he did. And that's why we have to have the secrets of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah come and explain the godliness in the Torah to remind us about the Torah. And that's what Chassidut does. Chassidut comes to explain to us what is the reason for the creation of the world as explained in the Torah. Most, if not all, the other religions in the world say, get out of the world. Don't forget about what the world is. Just get out of here, right? You just do things, you die, you go to heaven. That's life. That's what it's all about. And Judaism says, no. Death is not a good thing. If Adam had not eaten from the tree, there wouldn't be any death. Life is a good thing, but we don't see what life really is. And so that's the idea of the secrets of the Torah, how they're explained to everyone, made user-friendly. And that is only Chabad took it on themselves to do this. And this power to reveal the ideas of Chassidut to the whole world began really on Yud Tet Kislev. Before that, the teachings of Chassidut were more of a private thing. They were more for just Chabad alone. But when Yud Tet Kislev came, that the Rebbe was imprisoned by the Russian government, and they were very anti-Semitic, to say the least. And the enemies of the Rebbe were even more anti-Semitic. They were Jews that hated the ideas of the Rebbe, and they were the ones that had him imprisoned. And when the Rebbe got out, which was against all odds, there was no chance in the world that he would get out. The whole world was against him. And nevertheless, not did he get out of prison, but eventually he became an honorable citizen, and he saved Russia from Napoleon. A whole amazing story. But this whole it's on Yud Tet Kislev. That's when the Rebbe got the okay sign from heaven to start writing his ideas in great length and great explanation. That's when Chassidut Chabad really began. Chabad means Chachma means concept that he had before. Bina means to explain that concept, to make it understandable. And dat means to explain it in a way where everyone feels the truth of it inside of themselves. That these are not the Rebbe's ideas, these are God's ideas. The God who's creating us, right? Or let's say in another way, it's not the Rebbe's ideas, these are my ideas. Everybody feels this is really me that's speaking from the Lukuti Torah. This is my soul speaking to me. Okay, this was done on Yutet Kislev. That's the big holiday of Yutet Kislev. And I request just one moment. Let's just make a short pause. Good. Good. Okay, Hektem. Shaila Tamiha Benogel Chagagula. A very, how do you say, shocking question that we can ask about Yud Tet Kislev, the holiday of holidays. For those of you who just came in, Hasidut Chabad has come to save the world. The Jewish people are chosen by God, excuse me one second, chosen by God to bring blessing and meaning to the whole world through the Torah. And to show how this is possible, put the soul of the Torah is just another book in the library, but to show that the Torah really comes from God, the creator of the universe, who's creating everybody, is there has to be revealed the soul of the Torah, to show that the Torah is not just a regular book, or it's not just a book at all. It is the how do you say, makes the soul of every human being resonate with meaning and then say that feel the creator in the creation. And that's what Hasidut Chabad does. It takes the ideas of Kabbalah and other ideas, and it shows how every word of the Torah is coming from inside of us. Inside of us. So everything becomes meaningful. The whole world suddenly is inspired by the creator. Everyone in the world feels important. God is creating you. Why is he creating you with your own problems and your own deficiencies and your own this? God knows what he's doing. But we have to use it properly. That's the whole idea of Yutet Kislev was when the first Rebbe of Chabad had 53 days earlier, he had been imprisoned in Russian prison and basically sentenced to death. He wasn't officially sentenced to death, but it was impending. And miraculously, he was interrogated, and miraculously he got out. And not only he got out with honors and everything like that, he got out. And he saw this as a sign to start teaching the ideas of Hasidut throughout the whole world. Of course, he was in Russia, so it was hard to get it out to the whole world, but at least it was printed in a way that it could be relevant to the world. And that's what we're learning now. We're learning every morning. Teachings of the first Rebbe. That's Torah Or. Here we go. It's this book, Torah Or. Learn from this book, see? Okay. Let's ask a question. What's the question? The holiday of Yutet Kislev, which that's going to be next Tuesday, is different than all the other holidays. Pesach, Passover. We're claiming that Yutet Kislev is the soul of all of the other holidays of Judaism. The soul. It's the only book that even talks about this. Passover, Sukkot, they are always on the 15th day of the month. Passover is the 15th day, which is the middle of the Jewish month. Judaism, the month goes according to the moon, right? So the first day of the month is when there's the first sliver of the moon. The last day of the month is when the moon disappears. The 15th day of the month is the month when the moon is full. So the holiday of Passover and the holiday of Sukkot, how do they call Sukkot in English? Pentecost or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. No, is that it? Yeah. Tabernacles. The 15th day of the month of Sukkot, Sukkot is also on the 15th day of the month of Tishrei. That the moon is full. Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot, That's the holiday when the Torah was given. That's 50 days after Passover. In addition to that it's right in the holiday of Shavuot is celebrated 50 days after Passover. It doesn't have a date when it's going to be. It just says in the 50th day of the Omer. But how it's set in the days of the month, sometimes it can be on the 5th day of the month, sometimes the 6th day of the month, sometimes the 7th day of the month. That was when they were sanctifying the month according to the moon. But even now, there's what's called the international date line, and it's possible that the holiday of Shavuot can be either one of these 3 days. Nevertheless, the holiday of Shavuot is always on the first half of the month. When the moon, and the Jewish people are compared to the moon, it gets bigger and bigger. All of the holidays in Judaism are either in the middle of the month or the first half of the month. All of them, except for Chanukah. Chanukah is at the end of the month, but it goes into the next month. It goes into the beginning of the next month. And Yutet Kislev. Masha'en Ken Yutet Kislev, which is not the holiday of Yutet Kislev. Yutet Kislev is after the middle of the month. This is the second half of the month. Not only that is it not in the middle of the month, when the moon is full, but even more, it is in the second half of the month, when the moon is getting less and less. Similarly, we can also say, and maybe in a bigger way, is Chanukah. Chanukah comes even later in the month. It's not like Purim. Purim is on the 14th and the 15th day of the month, when the moon is full, Purim. But the holiday of Chanukah, it begins, and the majority of the days of Chanukah are in the last days of the month. From Kaf Hey Kislev, when the moon is getting less and less, it's almost gone. When the moon is almost totally gone, until finally the moon is totally disappeared. Now the Jewish people are compared to the moon. So all the other holidays of the year are in the first half of the month or in the middle of the month. But these two holidays of Yutet Kislev and the 25th day of Kislev, Chanukah, are in the end of the month. Okay, so what's so amazing about this? Yesh Lebayer, let's explain first of all, what is so important about the moon getting less in the second half of the month, regarding to the Jewish people, that they are, they count according to the months. Now, one thing you should understand from this whole business, and what you probably, I hope, can get the impression, the Jewish people are tremendously important, not in any way that any other nation is important. And from that, maybe we can come to the conclusion, everyone, I think more and more people are coming to this conclusion in Israel, that the Jewish religion is very important, totally unlike any other religion. Nowadays, there's a separation between the Jewish people and the Jewish religion, because the Jewish people, they're always Jewish, no matter what they do. No matter what they do. A Jew can never stop being a Jew. Even if he changes his religion, he can never stop being a Jew. He's always a Jew. And they know it. Every Jew knows that he's a Jew. And they'll even say that they're a Jew. I used to be a Jew. I wasn't. My parents were Jewish. We're a Jew. Which is not the case. Judaism. Judaism cannot be changed. You can't change it. If you change Judaism, that it diverts from the Torah and the commandments, it's not Judaism anymore. It's not. It's something else. It's a practice or something. It's not Judaism. Ideally, the infinite identity, the eternal, unconditional identity of the Jewish people will be connected to the infinite and unchangeable identity of the Torah, because both of them come from God. God is infinite, he's unchangeable. Okay, but let's just get back to where we are. The Jewish people, Jewish identity is unchanging, but the expression of it can change. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, right? Sometimes there's more of an expression, sometimes there's less of an expression. There's only one Judaism, but you can express it more, you can express it less. Let's explain it. Something like the moon. The moon is, since the first half of the month, the moon gets bigger and bigger. In the end, the moon gets less and less. And of course, what's the moon doing? It's illuminating the night. So in the first half of the Jewish month, the moon gets bigger. The second half, it gets less. Or the light of the moon gets less and less. It should be that the counting of the days of the month should be commensurate, because we count according to the moon, should be commensurate to the days of the size of the moon. The first half of the month, we should count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until we get to 15. The second half of the month, it should start from 15 and go down. Shame, because we're counting according to the moon. So according to the size of the moon is getting less. So it should be that we go, what's the date today? Today is the 14th. Maybe we can say 14A and 14B. 14A means it's getting bigger, and 14B means it's getting smaller. But still, the month shouldn't be more than 15 days. That should be it. Because we're counting according to the size of the moon. Jewish people. Not only to the days of the month, in the second half of the month, not get less, but even more, that it gets more. Even the completion of when the moon is full, the 15th, that the days after the 15th, that in it is lacking the moon, the light of the moon, who tetzayin. Why should the day after the the middle of the month, when the month is full and the moon starts getting smaller, why should it be a bigger number? Mispar echad, one number bigger than 15. I mean, either we're counting according to the moon or we're not counting according to the moon. Let's make up our minds. If we count according to the moon, then the date should be exactly according to the size of the moon, right? When the moon is full, that's 15. When the moon is going down, so remove 1/15. The next day, remove 2/15. Then we'll know that the number of the days after it, Shabon Nechsar Od, Yoter, even more completion, it should be 15. I'm sorry, it should be 13. But instead we add on and we make it 17. We add on 2. Beit Nismarim, 2 numbers bigger. And so it goes on. The further we get away from the middle of the month, the numbers keep getting bigger. Until the last day of the month, which is the 29th day, or if it's a full month, 30 days. Okay, why does it go that way in Judaism? Says the Rebbe Zot Ba'od, even more. Milvad, not only that is there addition in the half part of the month, but Mispar Dimei Chodesh, in the days of the date of the month, is Mudgash Ilo. It's also in the numerical value and the hints, which are the messages which are sent by these numbers. The first days of the month go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15, good. 15, that's a complete moon. Why doesn't it get less? Okay, whatever reason it is. But he says even more. It gets more. The days of the month become even bigger. And not only that, the message that they send is even important. It's commensurate to the bigger number. The 17th day, for instance, the 17th day of the month, that's the numerical value of good, tov. The 18th day of the month, well, there shouldn't be such a thing as an 18th day of the month, right? It should go less and less, but no, it gets bigger, and even more, it sends a message. The 18th day of the month, which should be the 12th day of the month, going down. But we added 3 instead of subtracting day. That's Yudchet, that's Chai, that's life. The number 19, that's Bitov, in good. The number 20, that's Yud, filled up. Yud Vav Dalet is Yud, that's 10, and Vav Dalet is another 10. The number 21, the 21st day of the month, that's Ach Tov Yisrael. The number 22 is B'cha B'Yavorechet Yisrael. 23 is Tuvo. God, in His goodness, the Tuvo of His goodness, He renews the world. That's 23. 24, that's Kad Kad. Kad Kad is like a vessel for godliness. Kad Kad Shem Shashayah. It's a sentence in, where is it? A sentence in Isaiah. It's a sentence in Isaiah, that the world will be a vessel for your oneness. Kad Kad. Number Kaf Chet is power. Kaf Tet, that's the days of the month, and the 13th, that's a full month. So if so, what it gets bigger, and not only that, we make a big deal out of the numbers. The numbers send us special positive messages. Says the Rebbe, why? The moon is getting less and less. It signifies the Jewish people becoming less and less. And we're talking about this is the Jewish calendar. So maybe it should be, what's the Rebbe proposing? It should be, he's not proposing. He's asking a question why. And of course, the Rebbe is going to explain why it's a good thing. And it's sending a very amazing message that the numbers get bigger. But we could have, it goes the first day of the month to the 15th day of the month. And then it can be the day after the 15th, the moon gets smaller. So it should be the 14th. So we'll call it 14A, 13A, 14B, whatever. The reason that the numbers keep getting bigger, and even more that there's an implication, positive implication to these bigger numbers, is since we have a commandment in the Torah, there's a general principle in the Torah, Ma'alin B'Kodesh. We go up in holiness. And you don't go down in holiness. And holy things you always add. And because there's a general principle that we always add in holiness, and this is relevant to every day of the month, even in the second half of the month, after the moon gets smaller and smaller, nevertheless, we have a principle in Judaism, you always add in holiness. You don't go down. According to this, now we have to understand this whole idea that the moon gets less in the second half of the month. Does that mean that the Jewish people lose their power? That the second half of the month is a bad omen? Says the Rebbe, no. After the moon is full, the moon gets less and less. It seems that the moon itself is not going according to this principle of increasing in holiness. Holiness must be increased. It goes down. The answer is like this. The moon and the sun are the giver and the receiver. The receiver and the giver. The moon receives from the sun. Shalavana, that the moon, late la migarme klum. The moon has nothing of its own. The moon does not shine. The moon only receives its light from the sun. And the way that it receives is that in the beginning, it receives a little bit of light. And that's when the moon is burned. That's the beginning of the month. A little strip, a little point. And from day to day, it gets bigger and bigger until it receives from the sun, until the 15th day of the month. In the 15th day of the month, it says the moon is full. Then the moon is complete. What does it mean? That the moon has filled the amount of light that it can receive from the sun. But since the Gam Kishem Mitmaleh, since when the moon is full and it is completed, nevertheless, it is still a receiver. This is not the ultimate completion of the moon. And the moon, again, here is talking about the Jewish people also. As long as the Jewish people are receiving from God, the more we receive, the better it is. But the job of the Jewish people is not just to receive. The job of the Jewish people is supposed to be to reveal the sun, and not just a reflection of the sun. Shenasit kamo achama. Sorry. The halavana, that the moon, this is not the completion of the moon. What is the completion of the moon? What's the purpose of the moon? To reflect the sun, no? Isn't that the purpose of the moon? To reflect the sun? No. That the moon itself becomes like the sun. and it doesn't have to receive from the sun anymore. As it says, Vayehi, where does it say this in 25? Isaiah. Like it says in Isaiah that the sun, or Lavana, that the light of the moon will be the light of the sun, like it was before it was made less. When was the moon made less? On the fourth day of creation, God created the two luminaries in the sky. It's two big luminaries. They were two big ones. And afterwards, God says that there was one was big and one was small. But in the beginning, it says they were both big. Both of them were big. Where does it say one small? So they explains in the Midrash that for whatever reason it was, God made the moon less. First of all, they were equal. God made the moon less. And in the future, the moon will return to its original state. That the moon itself was an illuminator, me'orot, it was an illuminator. And so it is with the Jewish people. The Jewish people are receiving now. But the goal of the Jewish people, the purpose of the Jewish people is supposed to be that they illuminate the whole world. Listen, Adam, interestingly enough, Adam was, how do you say, dioro, factually, he was a Jew. Legally, that's why he's buried. He and his wife are buried together with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Kiryat Arba. There's 4 couples that are buried there. Kiryat Arba, Hebron. It's called Kiryat Arba. 4 couples, and one of those couples is Adam and his wife. Adam and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their wives. Adam was born there. If Adam would have done what he was supposed to do, then there wouldn't be any death. There wouldn't be any confusion in the world. There wouldn't be and that's how he was created to be. But as soon as he sinned, then that made it less. This is an addition to the moon becoming less. The moon, of course, became less on the 4th day. Adam was created on the 6th day. Yesh Lomo, we can say, when the moon becomes full in the middle of the month and it receives from the moon, the moon receives from the sun, is nasa shlemut nalit yoter shehabana hi kamo achama. That when the moon is full and it receives from the sun, there can even be a greater unity when the moon itself shines. It doesn't receive from the sun anymore. By means of what? Excuse me, al yad, by means of hidgalot, revealing a higher level from both of them, a level of light, of godliness, which is higher than both the sun and the moon, how they were when they were created, even higher than that. It says there'll be keter echad, one crown for both of them. And this extra revelation will be revealed higher than the relationship between the moon and the sun in the second half of the month. The second half of the month, the first half of the month shows the sun shining off the moon. The second half of the moon is showing what the moon can do itself alone. More and more, the moon is revealed. Now we only see darkness, but the fact is that that's showing that in the future, the moon itself will shine. In simple language, what it's talking about here is regarding to us. The Jews don't know what they are. The Jews don't know what they are. And if you look at the world now, there's this thing of Jew hatred. And if you just look even just casually, you'll see that it has absolutely no basis whatsoever. No basis whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. None whatsoever. And even if you want to say, well, there's basis for hating a few, there are some Jews that are really bad. So let's say there's a basis for hating those few Jews, but why hate all the Jews? All the Jews, because a couple of them are bad. And when you look at those couple that are bad, you see that those people, the ones that are bad, they're no worse than the ones who accuse them. Right? Who are the biggest anti-Semites, the biggest Jew haters in the world? Hitler and the Nazis, they killed tens of millions of people for no reason. They were the example of anti-Semites, right? They were the end. And in the end, why did they hate the Jews? Because the Jews, they caused the defeat of Germany. The Jews, they bled the government. There was all lies. It wasn't true. At least back then, though, Germany really did lose. They did lose. Now there's nothing even to pin the Jews on. There's nothing. There's no crime that the Jews they're killing the Hamas. It's genocide. But there's no genocide. There's no nothing. There's no proof, right? Where does it come from? This guy UNRWA, that they're obviously affiliated with the whole thing is made up. It's made up. And even if it was true, it's not a reason to hate all the Jews. All the Jews are going to hate the Jews. Right? All the Jews. It makes absolutely no sense. So when we start looking at it, we start to realize maybe the Jews have something that really arouses everybody's soul. Their kishkas are all aroused. The Jews. Why in the world blame the Jews? And then we have the Arabs. That the Arabs are coming in. You want to call it the terrorist Arabs, and they're destroying the world. You have Ireland. The Muslims came in and they're destroying all of Ireland. Who do the Irish people hate? The Jews. They hate the Jews. They can't even stand the Jews. How many Jews are there in Ireland? How many? 1,000. Who knows how many there are? The Jews have been living in Ireland for, I don't know, 1,000 years. They've only been benefiting the place, right? The Muslims came in. They've been there for 10 years. And the whole place is totally destroyed. And they hate the Jews. Why is this happening? For the Jews to wake up. Maybe the Jews will start to wake. What have I got inside of me that arouses this hatred? What is inside? What do they see? What's going on there? What do I have? And the Jewish people start to look at themselves, and that's why I have an explanation for the Holocaust. I have an explanation for the Holocaust. I can explain the Holocaust in 3 words. The whole thing, you'll understand the whole entire Holocaust. What? Nazis were evil. That's it. It explains the whole thing. The whole entire thing. They were evil. I have questions. How could they rule over the good? That's addition. The fact is they were evil, and that's why they hated the Jews. Okay, so they're evil. Why hate the Jews? Why not hate everybody, right? Hate little children or little kids or, amusement parks or something like that. Why hate the Jews? What do they got? Because the Jews are the opposite of evil. You see some Jews that they don't look like the opposite of evil. They don't look like it, right? You could say, okay, they're not worse. The worst Jews are not as bad as the Hamas. They didn't go and break into a town and burn babies and things like that. They didn't do those things. But what is it inside of the Jews that arouses makes everybody crazy? What is it? The Jews themselves don't know. Well, that's the Rebbe is telling us what it is now. The Jews have the ability to shine godliness into the world, the Creator. And if the Creator shines in the world, it means that it's God's world. It's not your world. You can't do what you want. It's God's world. And God is good, and God is merciful, and God is loving, and God is caring, but God also is strict. He has laws. You got to go into the laws. What happens if you break the laws? Okay, nothing happens. Good. But there are laws. There are laws. If you have a conscience, if you have an integrity, then God is giving you everything for free. You want to do his laws. Naturally, you want to. People say, oh, yeah, I don't want to. I don't know what you're talking about. And you Jews, you're the Jews, right? And every Jew carries within him this message, shining out goodness in the world, order and blessing. And that's going to be the idea of the second half of the month, which we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Now, let's stop the share. Stop the